Welcome to the Meredith Show. I am thrilled and delighted to have not only a friend, but a superstar in the world of interior design. Jana Rosenblatt from Jana Design Interiors is with us today, and she's going to share her personal story, not only of how she's overcome adversity not once, but twice to shine with us, but she's going to share a little bit about her superpowers, which is always my greatest passion. And before we go there, it will be my absolute pleasure to give you a little bit of background. You know, as a journalist, I love to give a good scoop. And so Jana Rosenblatt actually achieved a master's degree in design for stage and screen. So many designer friends that I know have not done a master's degree. So that's really special and cool. And then you pursued, Jana, your first career in the entertainment industry, which, coming from California, for those of us who are not in the region, this is a hotbed of activity for a lot of great, wonderful, big, huge, iconic entertainment events and obviously spaces. So eventually you began creating the homes and offices of the people you were working with, leading to the start of your own interior design company. So what a great window to your world. And I should share with the audience, Jana Design Interiors is actually a full-service residential and commercial interior design company, building new homes from the ground up, major renovations of older homes, space plans, and build-outs of office spaces. I could use a little help. And pointed that out with love. You get to have something on the wall behind you. But after 20 years in the business, when the Woolsey fires took many homes in the area where we live, Jana was able to apply her years of experience building new homes with developers to work with clients that had unfortunately lost everything, to rebuild and reclaim their lives. During the pandemic, Jana contracted to write and illustrate her first book. And I'm so excited to share that with you, the Future Interior Designer's Handbook. This is super special. I really enjoyed leafing through because it's something that is simple enough for children. You actually designed it so that children 8 to 12 and design enthusiasts, I love this, of all ages can enjoy it. So what a wonderful window into your work. And I'm going to go ahead and share for viewers who are probably very excited and interested. I see we have several people already tuning in the chat here, a little bit more about how you can contact Jana. And we didn't even get fully into it, but you have a podcast.
I do, from disaster to dream home.
Yes. So we've got both links there. I'm going to go ahead and post that 2 times just for fun, and we'll share that again with people throughout this broadcast. We have a nice little feature where it can run as a banner under the screen. But to get started, you know, let's go way back, because I think it's really cool when we see somebody accomplished like yourself who's actually impacted, I'm sure, hundreds, if not thousands of people with not only beautifying their homes and spaces, but in times of need. So I think it's always a nice connector for our audience to know, how did you get here? And so we share just a little window into your history, but the truth is it's a bigger story. And it actually begins with a shocking discovery. At age 42, at the height of your entertainment industry career, you were diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. So that is what we call, I like to refer to them gently as a swift kick in the pants.
That's right.
Coming, right? Yeah. So we try to, remind viewers at home that no one is immune to unexpected change, but this was a doozy. So you really walked right into 18 months of treatment, and it led you to 5 years, quite frankly, of exhaustion. What do you say to people who have to not just rebuild their home, but their health? You are actually a pro at this.
Well, I think that I was really fortunate to be in a creative career, but I think it's something that people can create for themselves when they're going through something really challenging, which is that doing things that are life affirming continuously was really helpful for me. So it was a complete surprise. 42 years old is not an age that they consider even the option of ovarian cancer, although now I think thinking is different, but this was more than 20 years ago. And I was very fortunate that a really smart nurse practitioner put her finger on it and got me the help that I needed. I was in surgery within 48 hours of my diagnosis. And I was very fortunate. I had an amazing medical staff that, really got it. They got it out. And after 18 months of continuous chemotherapy, which they called a consolidation therapy, I am amazed that I've had no recurrences and no issues since.
Wow.
And, the fortitude of not knowing, how you're going to keep supporting yourself and all of those, things is daunting. But I've learned many times now over and over, you just put one foot in front of the other, and you have to trust the science, you have to trust the universe, and you have to trust your strength and yourself and my family and friends who are amazing support system.
We talk about finding the courage to shine. Obviously, the moment you get a diagnosis, it can take some people down. Let's be honest, right? So where do you think you found the courage to say, a lot of people find, and I'm so sorry to be so frank, a stage 4 cancer diagnosis is often terminal.
Right. Yeah.
What made you say, great, and I'm going to kick cancer's ass?
I didn't know enough because at 42, the older we get, the more familiar we are with cancers and with all kinds of illnesses. At 42, I was a little bit naive. And even though they handed me a book when I was leaving my doctor's office the first time, when I met my oncologist, my oncological gynecologist, I didn't know that word beforehand. She gave me a book, and on the back of the book, it said that 95% of people with this diagnosis don't live more than 5 years. Wow. Now, I don't know why they had to publish that, but I just learned really quickly not to read the end of any of the pamphlets or books. But I also, within about, I'd say 6 or 7 months of going through the process, which of course, like every crisis, you're busy at first with what do I do now? Where do I turn now? How do I handle this? Within about 6 months of that, I was at an event with the American Cancer Society. And I met a woman when I went and signed in, which was my first cancer event. You write your diagnosis on this little card. And she looked at it and said, "Oh, ovarian cancer. I was diagnosed with that 26 years ago." And I said, "Really? 26 years? There's a role model." And I, at that moment, said to myself, if someone could survive my diagnosis, then I can too.
I love
and it. Again, maybe naivete, sheer luck, but it put me into a positive framework and with a positive goal and a sense of the possible. And again, I kept working. I had a slow way down. I stopped my industry work, my entertainment industry work, because I could not have maintained those schedules. But I kept working on some of my interior design projects that were just starting in my career. And it made it so that I had an alarm clock, and I would drive to the other side of the hill from the Valley to Beverly Hills to work on a project. And I would need to rest in my car before going to a meeting. Then I had to rest again before, going in to see how things were progressing. Then I had to rest again before I came home. And so I had this little alarm clock, and I would just go into my car. I had this little turtle shell, I thought of it as, and I would just rest in between. But it was having those creative projects to watch them grow and to know that I was, helping people create their dream homes and their dream spaces really kind of kept me in a really positive framework.
I love that. So what I hear you saying is just sharing your story today could give somebody the courage they need if they received.
Ideally, yeah. That's why, a lot of people through the years get secretive about cancer and their diagnoses. But I truly believe that if you know there is hope, you can make a much better stab at having hope.
2000% agree. That's what I find. What's what I call finding the courage to shine. Now,
Mhm.
as if that wasn't a big kick in the pants, overcoming that. Fast forward to another disaster we can call that also unlocked. Let's be honest, a series of events you didn't see coming that were positive through the
Yeah, and life changing.
and life changing. So share with us what landed on your rooftop most unexpectedly.
So when we bought our house in Granada Hills, California, it had 5 gorgeous eucalyptus trees in front of it. And I am a tree hugger. I like a good tree. And I thought, oh, how beautiful. Our little house has all these trees. Well, within a short time of living here in our new home, down the street, one of those giant eucalyptus trees that had been planted as a wind block for the orange groves that were through this area in the 20s through the 50s, one of those trees fell, and the neighbor was hospitalized, and they had to gut the house down to the foundation. And I immediately called my insurance broker and I said, listen, if one of the city's trees falls on my house, is it my house or the city's is it my tree or the city's tree? And will I be covered to rebuild my home? And she said, now you will. And I upped my coverage, which is, one of the things that people really need to take a moment and consider. What are you in the path of? I mean, I didn't know about the trees. I wouldn't have known except for one fell, but then I got covered. And so in 2017, actually it was December of 2016, it was holidays. We were away in not staying in our house, but our cats and our cat sitter were. And but she wasn't here when it happened. And early one morning, right near the end of the year, within days, my neighbor texted me a picture and said, she texted me and said, Jana, are you home? And I responded, no, thinking she needed help. No, are you okay? And she texted a picture was all she could do next. And clearly it was a tree on my house. And because I kind of always knew it was going to happen, I wasn't so surprised, but I was certainly not, prepared for what was ahead of us. So
I'm going to stop you because you think a tree. This was not a small tree, okay?
Yes.
Let's get some perspective.
Let me describe, and well, you can actually go to my website. There are pictures, but it's probably about a 60-foot eucalyptus tree.
Wow.
Eucalyptus trees are called widowmakers because they have very short root structures and they grow really high. But they were supposed to not be put in neighborhoods. They were supposed to be put in fields where you needed to break the wind from from your crops. But here they are. We've put in streets. We've done things that make it so that no nutrients really get to the roots. And so they're really an accident waiting to happen. And so when you were in my bedroom, which is in the back of the house, you could actually see the tree over it. That's how high it was. So it was high and it was on a bit of an angle already, as many of them are. They go in the direction of the wind. And so when it fell, it cleared the front of the house. It hit the main spike of the roof, which is in the center of the house.
Wow.
And because my house is on a raised foundation, the whole house bounced like in an earthquake. So, wow. And it's an 1,100 square foot house. It's not, it was originally a cottage when it was built in the early 50s. And so there was and it had plaster and lathe walls. It wasn't even, updated in the drywall world. And I know, I was like, how do I say that?
That's a mouthful.
And so there was damage on every, side of the house inside. I mean, wow. Even the kitchen countertops released a little bit from the wall, but enough so that they needed to be removed and replaced, which meant I get to do my kitchen. So, there's a silver lining ahead for sure. But we got back from this vacation, and if it was up to the insurance company, we would have moved in and lived there, and they would have been a little bit of fixing and cosmetically. But I know more than that. And I know that when I see certain kinds of damage on walls that didn't have damage before, that there's a more intrinsic problem. So I called an independent adjuster, which I highly recommend, because I knew that I was too emotionally involved. And I knew that the person that they had assigned to work with me from the insurance company was like a teenager. I felt like this was his first job, and he didn't get it. He was thinking, like you heard a minute ago, it was a tree falling on my house. No, it was a giant tree falling on my little house, and everything shifted. So we immediately got an engineer in, and the engineer said, you got to get him out. We literally could not live in our house.
Not safe after this.
That's right. We stayed a few nights, maybe a week or two. But then they shored up the roof, and then they did this immediately. They sealed up, they covered the holes that were, where the tree had come through the house in the front quarter immediately. They did that well. But then in terms of knowing what to do next, the insurance company really didn't have a clue. So we got in the engineer, and we evaluated what had to happen.
And fast forward, you were out of your house for how long?
We were out for 14 months.
So over a year from this lovely little tree.
Yes, that's right. And it could have been faster. There's no reason why the work couldn't have been done within 6 months, except for the cumbersome process of the mortgage companies processing the funds that get sent to them by the insurance company, and the insurance company's process. So it's the system that causes huge amounts more money to be spent than necessary. But you got to work within the system.
Amazing. And what I love about this is sad that this happened, but it actually unlocked you to be the perfect person when the Woolsey fires came that just decimated homes. Really understanding not just what it is to redesign. That is one piece that I'm sure you're very masterful at, but also how to negotiate and work with these companies, because often, I think, to put it nicely, the individual, I don't want to say they get screwed, but what we don't know about.
That's exactly the point, Meredith. That's right. And I recently did a podcast episode exactly to that point. There's a lot of money in your insurance company, your insurance policy. No one understands their policy. Let me just say, it is only if you're a working professional in the field do you really get the language. And even then, you need to read through the lines a lot. There's a lot of money that you may not even know you have coming to you without an expert in the field advising you. And you leave money on the table that you may really need to recreate your life, to get back into an even keel with your property, to develop what you had or, close to it.
So if this is, somebody and you're watching at home, if this is you, I'm going to go ahead and drop here in our chat, as well as on the banner on the screen, a little nugget for you, because you can actually listen to hours of experts in multiple parts of the construction or the whole process. You can describe that probably a little better than I can. But you have a whole entire podcast now from disaster to dream home that people can tune into and really educate themselves. But I would say, if I were them, I'd reach out to you.
Yes, and I'm happy to be reached out to. So we do. Shortly after this happened, the people who had lost their homes to the Woolsey fires about the time that my tree fell were getting to the point where they were getting ready to rebuild. And people were then reaching out to create their design teams. They may have already had an architect and a builder, but an interior designer takes it to the next level and helps you be prepared to be. I never wanted, and I never want my clients to be the one that causes a delay in the building process. And that's the goal of my podcast. So the structure of the podcast was to describe the rebuilding process of a whole house from the ground up in 52 episodes or 52 weeks, which is a year. Sometimes it'll take a little less, sometimes it'll take a little more, but what we talk about is in order of what you have to do when, so that you know the experts you need to seek, whether it's for plumbing or for flooring or for whatever. And we do start with the process of insurance. We do talk about that beforehand so that you can hopefully light some light bulbs about people's heads to get someone to look at their paperwork with them. that will work with them on their behalf, whether it's just by seeking an expert in the field or an adjuster or whatever it is, so that you know what you're up against. But the idea of the podcast was to lead you through the process, as we will when you call and when we help you rebuild your home or part of your home, by creating your design, creating your plans, and talking you through or taking you through the entire process of what you need to have prepared.
I love that. So on the screen for people watching, if you're feeling inspired to reach out for some help, Jana is there for you. And on her website, she has information, of course, about interior design. I love that you share your original photos of what you've documented you've overcome, because truly remarkable. They always say, bless the mess in the South. I did have the pleasure of working there all the time. And there is some wonderful wisdom in that, because without a doubt, whenever we overcome adversity and we find the courage to press through, we not only have a story that's so compelling that could inspire somebody who really needs to dig deep to find their personal courage, which I commend you for, having the strength and the courage to not be silent and share all the things you've overcome. Yeah. But I love that you're living
it all out there, Meredith.
Yeah, put it out there. And at the same time, you're really living that dream of not just overcoming adversity, but giving back. I just want to commend you for really living a life of service, because let's face it, we don't hope for disaster, but much like I say in all of my talks, a swift kick in the pants is ahead of many of us, most unexpectedly. So it's who we get to be when it happens, right?
Well, and the beauty of our disaster is that I got to redesign our house. And I always have led my clients through the process of understanding their real inherent needs for their family in their workspace or in their home, and building and creating a design that fills that. And I got to do it for myself, which, I hopefully fully would have done someday, but I don't know when. So I got to kind of do it earlier. And then taking my, 20 years of experience in the design industry, applying it to my own home, learning even more, and now being even at a better place to help my clients, there is joy at the other end. There is a pot of gold at the end of every rainbow. And that's really what I do, is I help the client find the joy sooner than they might on their own, and build toward that.
I love that. Saving time, money, and energy, all resources that we would love to really, really preserve. And all the while, thank you for sharing how you found the courage to shine through adversity, not once, but twice, and now sharing that joy with others. Tremendous. Please feel free to contact Jana at janadesigninteriors.com. If you're watching and you know somebody needs to hear this message, please feel free to share this broadcast and Jana's information. And by all means, tune into her show, also on our screen there. From disastertodreamhome.com is a great place to find it, as well as all the places and spaces, right? Spotify and everywhere you can find a podcast. And we are delighted to have you as a part of the Motivation and Success TV network. We believe that putting your story out can literally inspire somebody to make a beautiful change in a dark moment. So thank you, Jana, for being on the Meredith Show, sharing your stories of courage to shine. And most importantly, thank you for making a little time today to share what I call the love. And I know somebody at home knows somebody who's out there doing something amazing, just like Jana. So whatever you do, don't keep it to yourself. Please reach out and contact us. And you can reach me at themeredithshow.com. And you can warm my heart by reaching out to Jana to support you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a great day. And thanks for tuning in, everyone.